President Tinubu tasked Niger Delta leaders to broker peace in Rivers State.
We are brilliant people. We can do things. With our youthful population, we can achieve the greatest thing in Africa.
Nigeria on growth trajectory for investment across sectors.
Shift from outdated trade model to forward thinking, technology-driven business ecosystem.
The Minister of Health unveils presidential initiative to unlock healthcare value chain.
But case management, in particular, seems to be one way that we can reduce the burden of disease.
Good morning, Nigeria. Today, we shall take a look at improving power supply in Nigeria.
Well, Claire, you're welcome back. At least I'm seeing you for the first time this year.
No.
Yes, on this program.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, let's get started. We'll talk about it later.
Have you been able to cope with the weather?
Well, you
with
know,
this epileptic power supply and the heat?
It's very hot. It's very hot. And the weather center, they've also come up with more warnings that we should expect more warmer days and nights. But, this is our weather.
Maybe this
built
season.
Of tougher skin,
Maybe this season. But we just pray that we have a regular power supply
at
this time, because we need it.
Okay. Now you have taken us to the issue for this morning. So
that is the issue, Claire. Have you ever thought about how much energy we actually need to keep everything running in this country?
Well, they were not the physical energy or power, but indeed, if you're talking about electric power, it's massive. And honestly, we can't keep relying on the old ways. And like they say, if you do the same thing over and over again, you then expect a change. So we need sufficient and efficient solutions to drive our economy, improve living standards, and of course, ensure energy security.
Exactly, Claire. And speaking of sustainable energy, did you know Nigeria gets an average of 5.5 kilowatts hours of solar radiation daily? That makes us one of the best places for solar power investment.
I mean, what else do we want? That's a lot of untapped potential, if you ask me.
Yeah,
and honestly, with so many Nigerians still living without reliable electricity, especially in our rural areas, solar power could be a game changer. Off-grid solutions can quickly bring electricity to remote communities and even stabilize areas with inconsistent power supply.
I couldn't agree more, Claire, but we also need to think bigger. Solar power is great, but it shouldn't be our only option. If we combine it with other renewable sources like hydropower and wind energy, and even upgrade our existing hydroelectric and gas plants, we can create a more stable and reliable power system.
Absolutely, especially now that, they say what we're experiencing now in terms of the heat wave. Is as a result of the emissions, from the greenhouses. Again,
really?
Yes, that's what they say. So overhauling the national grid, it's an overdue, process. For decentralization, we keep seeking collapse. We keep seeing collapses of the national grid, and some facilities are also just too old to function properly. Now, without serious investment upgrades, improving power supply will remain a dream. Infrastructure is very key.
A dream indeed. We need to wake up from fast. We need to wake up from it fast. Well, on that note, I am Ademola. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
And now you can welcome me properly.
Claire,
yes.
Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Yes.
I mean, you and I for the first time this year.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
On Good Morning.
On Good
and
Morning
of course
Nigeria.
to a new set.
Okay. Oh, no, this is okay. Maybe to you.
A new set. I
We've
think
been
I like the colors. You know, they are calming to the soul, and you know they give us some form of maturity. But they were like, it's good to be back. You know, they'll say, oh, work and no play makes
make clear.
everybody, not just Jack, makes everybody dull. So sometimes you need to take off, and then come fresh. So I'm bubbling.
You are refreshed.
I'm bubbling. I'm bubbling with energy. Comfort is smiling. Don't worry. She'll soon be on. I'm Claire Dilabu Abdurrazak. Comfort will be taking the morning news in a short while. Comfort, just keep hold on. Chukwudi Okoli will, of course, be joining us later for the newspaper review. So, Comfort, take it over. How are you?
Well, and good to see you and have you back on set. We expect a whole lot because you're going to make the conversation very clear. Well, President Bola Tinubu has charged leaders in the Niger Delta area of the country under the umbrella of the Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEV, to the responsibility to broker peace in the lingering political instability in Rivers State. President Tinubu gave the task in the interest of peace and the people of the state when he met with leaders of the socio-political group in the State House.
Please go back home and help him implement those recommendations within the shortest possible time. Well, go back home and take charge of peace. And if you need me, let me know. People of Rivers State must not suffer for the democracy that we all put together. They will not. They must be protected.
Ahead of the forthcoming Nigeria-Brazil strategic dialogue mechanism, Nigeria is now on a new growth trajectory, ready for investment across different sectors. Vice President Kashim Shettima, during an update meeting with relevant ministers and heads of agencies at the presidential villa, noted this mechanism is part of government strategies to prepare for a better tomorrow.
There has to be some clarity, some strategic coherence, and a deep understanding of issues that will be tabled for discussion.
Also, Nigeria has taken another bold step in strengthening its economic ties with China as legislators and stakeholders gather to unveil the Nigeria-China Sustainable Business Trade and Investment Summit. And the bilateral engagement focuses on charting a legislative course for ease of doing business in both countries in 2025.
Our ultimate goal is to establish a feedback mechanism that informs a legislative agenda of ease of doing business.
Shift from outdated trade model to forward thinking, technology-driven business ecosystem.
Meanwhile, the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, says a viable healthcare system that addresses major health issues, including malaria in Nigeria, is central to President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda on health. The minister was speaking at the kickoff of a presidential initiative to enhance the local manufacturing and supply chain management for health commodities and supplies in the country. The presidential initiative for unlocking the healthcare value chain event is themed building the industry for a stronger malaria response and resilient healthcare.
We have to domesticate our efforts in the context of Nigeria. And there are things that we do on the vector, on the preventive tools, but case management in particular seems to be one way that we can reduce the burden of disease.
To improve public transportation, the Kaduna State government has commenced the construction of a Kaduna Bus Rapid Transit System, a 25-kilometer corridor stretching from Kawo to Sabon Tasha. And the project includes a state-of-the-art terminal and an ultra-modern motor park aiming to enhance mobility and to also ease traffic congestion across the state capital.
That marks a significant milestone in our commitment to enhancing public transportation, fostering sustainable urban development, and improving the quality of life of our citizens.
Those are the news highlights. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Claire after this time out.
I am Oluremi Tinubu, the global and national Stop TB champion. Many people have asked why I've chosen to champion the fight against a disease like tuberculosis. My reason stems from a deep personal experience. I once had a friend who unfortunately fell ill and concealed the nature of his sickness until it was too late. Eventually, after he passed, we discovered he had tuberculosis. Sadly, due to the stigma and discrimination surrounding the disease, he would not speak up or seek for help. His death was a painful reminder that we could have intervened and saved a life if only we had known earlier. Tuberculosis is an airborne disease that primarily affects the lungs, but can also impact other parts of the body. Being airborne means anyone, regardless of their socio-economic status, can contract it. In Nigeria, 1 person dies of TB-related illness every 7 minutes, amounting to 206 deaths every day. Globally, 1 person succumbs to TB every 25 seconds, which is a staggering 3,456 lives lost daily. These deaths are entirely preventable because TB is curable if detected and treated early. If you or someone you know has been coughing for 2 weeks or more, coughing up blood, experiencing night sweats, or losing weight drastically, it might be TB. Please visit the nearest government hospital or primary healthcare center for proper diagnosis and treatment. TB treatment is free in all government and some private health facilities. Let us also remember not to stigmatize or discriminate against TB patients or those who have been treated for TB. Individuals who have been cured of TB cannot infect others. I call on all stakeholders, especially the private sector, to join us in the fight to end TB in Nigeria. Together, we can make a difference. Remember, TB anywhere is TB everywhere. End TB by 2030. Yes, we can.
The holy month of Ramadan is here again, a month to submit to the will of Allah, a month to share, a month to care, and most importantly, a month of goodness. Start well and end well with the goodness of peak milk at Sahar and Iftar, and share the nourishing goodness of peak milk with everyone around you. Ramadan Kareem.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Darling natural twists blend with her hair over time.
Yeah, that's perfect.
She's really more beautiful every week. Darling natural twists get better every day, just like you.
The new Happy Sachets. It has a thick formula, so all you need is just 1 sachet for your toilet bowl. It gives 10 times better cleaning and big savings too.
Wow, Helen!
Sparkling clean toilet with Happy Sachet.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industry, industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
At break time, when my champ needs to keep going, he's going to need his favorite snack, containing calcium, iron, and fiber.
Milo Snacks, snack of future champions. Milo!
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Sunana Safiya Ismail, ni daga Gwagwalada Area Council a karkashin Giri. Ina da yara 7 da mijina. Sana'ana sadda itace. Akwai damuwomi da yawa. Rashin kudi da musanta zaka ga itace zai kare ba kudi ne zaka siya wani an kira ni ayi Safiya Ismail nace yes come for your benefits at Angondo do Gwagwalada suka bani ATM din immediately na withdraw kudi na amma gaskiya kudin ya zo at the right time.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
All right, welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria, and of course, time for newspaper review.
Well, our newspaper reviewer is here. Chooks.
You've forgotten my name, eh? Demo.
How can I forget your name now?
I trusted you well above Victor.
Please don't. No. How can I forget your name?
How are you doing?
Because we were discussing something
of
before
course now.
So I'll just treat,
the mind is
brain,
not so smart.
Yes, the brain is just trying to recalibrate or what
distractions.
Good.
Claire, how are you doing?
We're talking about a heat wave and how we can cope.
You still manage your shine. It just brightens up the day for us.
No killing the beetle.
I like that. I like that.
All right, let's quickly start off. And I'd like to start off with an online paper, People's Daily. And of course, People's Daily, just a moment, I'd like to retrieve it now. People's Daily has, on its front page, Reps ask NCC to block all pornographic websites. Call for reduction in hike of telecom tariffs. And there's a picture story there. Kaduna State retirees, save our souls. That's what the banner there reads. And let me go a little below the nameplate again. EFCC naps 4 Chinese, 27 other suspected illegal miners in Jos. And police in the FCT recovered 19 stolen vehicles in 2 months. Okay, other stories trending just at the bottom of the paper. But let me quickly look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper. And the Leadership newspaper. All right. The Leadership leads with ECOWAS activates standby force against terrorism. That story is on page 4. To tackle transborder crimes, defense chiefs meet after Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger exit. And the other story is above the nameplate there. Go and implement Supreme Court judgment, Tinubu tells Fubara. And crisis erupts in SDP 24 hours after El Rufai's membership. It's on page 60. Crisis erupts in SDP 24 hours after El Rufai's membership. And IGP bans parade of suspects. It's on page 7. 26 die of meningitis in Kebbi on page 53. 34 is saying Ukraine backs US proposal for 30-day ceasefire. And the political story, PDP leaders behind kidnappings in Edo, that's attributed to the state government. Demola, it's over to you.
Okay, Claire, thank you. Let me just clear this Daily Trust newspaper for jokes. Then we have these tax reform bills. Reps Committee proposes major changes, drops VAT increase, modifies inheritance tax, sustains funding for TED Fund, Nitda Naseni. Details of the story can be found on page 4 and page 6. Meningitis kills 26 in Kebbi and Sokoto, and 1 in Sokoto. Details can be found on page 3. Life expectancy in Nigeria now 54.6 years, below global average. Jokes. Tinubu to Fubara implements Supreme Court judgment. Details can be found on page 15. And the African sayings, when spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. Jokes.
That bit you read there, are you trying to frighten me? Are you saying that I'm already 12 years into extra time or what?
Yeah.
The life expectancy?
No, you are on extra time. You don't
I'm
know.
going to 68.
You are on extra
time. Stop it, Demola, please. I have not done many things in life.
I think extra time at 68. As a Christian at 68, you have two more years to hit the promised age. So it's no extra time.
You are even making it worse.
No. What is the promised age?
70.
Who told you that?
Please, can we leave this topic?
What is written in the Bible is 120, not 70.
Oh, 120.
Is 120.
So you see, you have a long way.
Force.
You have a long way.
Is 120,
leave me out
not,
of this,
not
please,
70.
Please. It's a tepid and morbid argument.
He doesn't want to die. You see a lot of people, they want to go to heaven, but they don't want to die. He's
All
one
right,
of them.
ECOWAS stand by, please.
All right.
One can only applaud such a move. You know, they've always been talking about it. Without cooperation, insurgency, banditry in the sub-region is going to be an intractable problem. But the snag remains the fact that there are renegades. Mali, Burkina Faso, you know. If we don't bring them in from the cold, because they really are in the cold, they think they're doing well, they need us to thrive. If we don't bring them in from the cold and we all converge on a common problem, it is still going to create loopholes. But the fact that the force has finally been activated is quite commendable. Well, I hope that Mali and the rest of them don't become a counter force to the force itself.
You know, the issue of trans-border crimes, it's quite disturbing.
Very, very.
Very, very disturbing, because if you look at the magnitude or the volume or the length of borders that are porous.
Please, thank you. You must put the adjective porous before borders,
porous.
But you have
porous borders.
You have postposed it,
yes,
so it's you're still in order.
You discover that these are areas where not just human trafficking coming through.
Yes.
There are areas from where guns, proliferation,
small arms
and like weapons coming, and you talk about not just the borders within the ECOWAS sub-region, also other aspects. I mean, if you go through Cameroon, Taraba down to Cameroon,
access,
Chad,
yes,
Sokoto, and then you come to the western side. You talk, So these are all areas through which these arms are brought in, and we hear that these arms are sold cheaply. In neighboring countries. So it's high time that the ECOWAS mediation and security, whatever, did something more, I don't know, more powerful, more stronger to protect the borders. And because a lot of people are saying, look, let us review even the ECOWAS protocol. Yes, on free movement, because I mean it's even making it more difficult for countries.
But how do you review such protocol on free movement? Just like you said, that the borders are very porous.
Yes.
So
you put a caveat on that freedom of movement. You see, an organism must preserve itself. It's a biological fact. If abuse begins to attend the ECOWAS protocol, work on it. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. Look at what is happening now in the U.S.
Two things, Chooks. One, those who advocate review of that protocol say, one, when that protocol was initiated, the reality now, the current reality now, does not address, or it's not consistent with the time.
Exactly. Some evolution of issues has happened.
Yes. So
I agree with you.
So you must take that into consideration. Then secondly, almost everybody is now carrying the ECOWAS passport. So you don't even know who is an irregular, migrant. And you don't know who is a genuine, business person.
A review is necessary. Some sifting has to happen.
Yes, there's something. And we must also strengthen our own residency, regulations for members of our country.
Chooks, meningitis kills 26 in Kebbi and 1 in Sokoto.
Spinal meningitis has always been, in my days of news reading, anytime I got that script, I cringed. Because each time they told me that it was heat-related, and I was reading during the dry season, I would feel that I was also susceptible, exposed to having, this kind of attack. And I hear that it is a terrible experience.
It is.
A terrible experience. You get knocked out sometimes, you're in coma.
Yeah.
Demola just frightened me this morning when, he narrated,
it's an experience.
And that's why there's need for more
the most common signs actually for the symptoms, just fever,
that's
headache,
what I'm looking for.
nausea and vomiting. You just think that when I had it, it was like I had a fever. So I took anti-malaria. I was in secondary school, Form 3.
Oh dear.
I'm telling you. And that was it. I took anti-malaria drug and that was it. I just went to one of my teacher's house just to go and rest. And 2 weeks after that, I woke up. I was in coma.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
You knew nothing?
I didn't know anything. I was rushed from my school, Mayflower School, to Shagamu General Hospital. Then when my parents came, they transferred me to Luth.
You're very fortunate. Please, just before we go to Kudi, here, this is what the leadership is saying. It says, please, according to the Commissioner for Health, or Commissioner for Health in Kebbi, it says, report immediately to the nearest health facility if you are sick. Avoid sleeping in overcrowded rooms. Maintain proper personal hygiene and ensure the cleanliness of your environment. Again, these are precautionary measures.
Yes, I was going to ask, how do we preempt?
Yes, so please avoid overcrowded rooms, maintain proper personal hygiene.
Take a lot of water as well.
Take a lot of water, fruits.
Prompt attention must be very, very necessary. And it's going to be expert attention, not just
not just this anti-malaria thing.
Exactly.
But you wouldn't know.
Yeah, because it comes disguised. Yeah, usually you see a cocktail of the normal ailments and all that.
Well, anyway, Chooks, that cocktail.
He's reliving those 2 weeks. Thank God you're still around, my dear.
We have to go now.
It's okay.
We have to go now. So thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot.
All right, we'll take a break now. When we return, Good Morning Nigeria continues. Stay with us.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history. culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Little body, big moves. Little brain, big learning. Your little child is eager to do big things. Every sachet comes with the nutrients they need every day. Made from natural grains, contains protein and fortified with iron to support their physical growth, learning, and development. So you can fully enjoy your little one's big moments of growth.
Give more strength to your hair with Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener. It's infused with wonder oils and conditioning proteins, so you can say goodbye to hair breakage. Wow! Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener.
We're live in the open market for Epic 10X Challenge. My people, today I will show you how the power of new Epic 10X gives your toilet a better cleaning than bleach.
Than bleach?
Yes, so.
Impossible.
Toilets have stains which bleach cannot clean effectively. But Epic is thicker and sticks better, which gives 10X better cleaning versus bleach and kills germs.
Oh, wow.
You can now see that Epic is better than bleach.
The Nigeria Coat of Arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree. We sway in colors, we turn dark into light. We make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthened in unity. We know they carry lives. We are Nigeria, together live the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Nigeria is perched on the treasure trove of solid minerals. Gold, coal, tantalum, tin. But none is more critical to our future, or the world's future, like lithium.
Let's talk about illegal mining operations. What is our strategy?
Thanks for staying with us. You are still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Just before we bring in our guest, for our conversation, Improving Power Supply, let's take this background report by Ibrahim Bello Gunda.
Power generation, transmission and distribution are the three processes of delivering electricity to consumers in residential, industrial and commercial areas in Nigeria. However, mismanagement of funds in the power sector, vandalism of gas pipelines, kidnapping of professionals that man gas facilities, inability to partner with multinational oil companies to fully utilize gas, poorly planned maintenance culture, and energy theft affect electricity generation, transmission and distribution in Nigeria. Others are constant collapse of national grid, vandalism act on electricity installations, and indebtedness on the part of consumers are some of the factors affecting improved electricity supply. 12 years after privatization of the Nigerian electricity supply industry and the coming to effect of Electricity Act 2023, electricity generation and distribution continue to face challenges, with electricity consumers still grappling with epileptic supply, thereby affecting businesses and livelihood. The grouping of electricity consumers into bands has questions on what happens to those in bands that don't get specific hours required for them to belong to the band, among other concerns. There is a growing emphasis on renewable energy sources as Nigeria's energy landscape diversifies to include hydro, solar and other sustainable options. Both public and private sectors, including state governments, are increasingly investing in these alternative options for a more balanced energy option to advancing energy reliability. What is the way forward to improving power supply to Nigerians? Did the privatization option help in improving access to constant supply of power? What are the options available for Nigeria to improve its energy sources? These and more will form part of questions guests on Good Morning Nigeria will find answers to.
All right, many thanks to Ibrahim Bello Gunda for the background report. We have seated already here in the studio Bode Fadikbe, and he's the CEO, Sage Consulting and Communication. And Sage is basically involved in power sector and policy analysis and advocacy, and we're glad to have you in our studio with us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
And also from our Kaduna studio, we are happy to be joined by Idris Mohammed, and his former MD, CEO, Kaduna Electric and Power Infrastructure Expert. Thank you very much, Mullah Mohammed.
NTA, good morning, Nigeria.
All right, joining us via Zoom from the United Kingdom is Engineer Mustafa Yunusa Mehaja. He's the former DG, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and expert in power system planning and development. Engineer Mehaja, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Okay, I'd like to start with Malam Idris Mohammed, who is the former NDCU Kaduna Electric and Power Infrastructure Expert. Just what is the problem with our power, supply in this country? I mean, we've had courts to discuss this issue time and time, over and over again, and we're still, I don't know if I should say we're still where we are. Can you just give us a brief insight into what really are the current realities in the power sector?
For having me once again, I would say that the issues that is affecting the power sector is majorly that of not adhering to the professional advices that are given by consultants, professionals who are desirous of making sure that the government has tried to improve the quality of power supply in the country. But then what is happening? The medium through which that objective is to be achieved needs to be improved upon. There is the major issue of lack of adherence to planning. Do we really have at the moment what you call a long-term plan a medium-term plan, and then a short-term plan that is engendered to make sure that everything that is required to make sure that stable and reliable electricity power supply is achieved is not being put in focus. And I think the major issue is that there are quite a lot of documents that are intended to achieve those targets. But then are the people charged with the responsibility of ensuring those plans materialize, are achieved? I'm not sure that is happening. But it's never too late for that to be put in perspective. I know NTA has tried severally. We have had different discourse regarding ways and means to achieve stable power supply in Nigeria. But what really is happening? Is there the will? Once there is the will, there is the way. And I think the people who are charged with that responsibility of ensuring that we have steady power supply in Nigeria must be up to it. Look at the issue of the current installed capacity of 14,000 megawatts that we have had in the last how many years? 5 years or more? And then there is no leap from what the 14,000 megawatts installed capacity is meant to achieve. I think if we imbibe the culture of planning and ensuring that planning is a very important aspect of strategic plan, then we will have a sigh of relief. Look at the Renewable Energy Master Plan that was conceived many years ago. I do know that there are plans for the government to imbibe the culture of relying on renewable energy, wind, solar, hydro, and then there are plans that at the corridor of power that just need to be implemented. Why are those plans not being implemented? There are regional plans in the country, in the ministry, that is expected to generate, for instance, in the 6 geographical locations, they are supposed to generate a minimum of 10,000 megawatts of power. And that has been improved by previous or the last administration. That added to the solar power, there is also going to be, to support the effective takeoff of the solar power, there's going to be the wind and the solar. So if you combine the two, and you have a minimum of 10 megawatts each, that will be 20 megawatts that will come from the 6th geopolitical zone. There is supposed to be a pilot project. That pilot project is in Katsina State. And the project had already attained a level of 80% or more. A little is left to achieve that project of the Katsina Wind Project. And then added to it, also to make it more effective and dynamic, is a 10 megawatt solar that will support the current wind plant in Katsina State. That power generates direct into the national grid. Why are we not tapping that potential? I know that Kano Electricity Distribution Company is interested in the offtake of that 20 megawatts of power. That 20 megawatts of power can transform Katsina State, or let's say Katsina Metropolis. So why can't we do the right thing? If we say the project in Katsina is pilot, and then you migrate this pilot project to other 5 geopolitical zones, it means that you have a total of 6. Now, that is just one aspect of the scenario. There is also the capacity to generate power from coal. There is also the capacity to generate power from hydro. There are also the support by Rural Electrification Agency to add value to the system. So if you just plan and try to achieve all those options, I think we will have a stable power supply regime in Nigeria. We just need to do what is right so that we can save ourselves this embarrassment of grid collapse. There is no more grid collapse. It is now grid disturbance or grid instability. And then for the generation companies, installed capacities, you have stranded power. That stranded power is about 6,000 megawatts. To realize that 6,000 megawatts of power means that you are achieving or attaining the low-hanging fruit that can take place within 6 months. That can take place within 6 months. And for solar energy, for wind plant, that is a project that takes a minimum of 6 months. So you are saying that with a good objective plan, if you start from today, Wednesday, March, you are going to attain, before the end of the year, a reasonable quantum of energy from renewable energy. And I think that is the way to go. We have been having so many challenges that is coming from the gas supply, and then vandalism of the sector, and then also there is the vandalism of the transmission sector. That vandalism can be checked because we know that if you introduce the right technology to check those vandals through installation of CCTV on top of transmission towers, I think that will be the end of the game for the vandals. But why can't we do that? Why do we have, for instance, if a tower is vandalized, then you will replace the tower for an outrageous cost, when that replacement cost of a new tower is probably a quarter of the price of that replacement. Are we really serious in this country? Can't we help Nigeria to grow? Can't we help the masses of Nigeria to be masses of Nigeria? I think it's obvious that that plan and the will is not there.
Thank you very much, Mr. Idris Mohammed, for your opening remarks there. Are we really serious? Really a big question. He has actually highlighted a lot of issues here as some of the root causes of the power, supply challenges that we have in the country. One major one is that there is no proper planning, and that where there is planning, there is no implementation of the plan as well. Let's get your perspective, your opening. What do you think? I mean, besides all that he has said, what do you think are the root causes of these power shortages that we are having in this country?
Not just that, thank you so much, not just that there is lack of proper planning. Even the little improper planning that we do is inconsistent. But alongside that is even the disturbing phenomenon of policy inconsistency, corruption. Those two have been very, very prevalent in the system. For instance, we know that currently 2 former ministers of power are going through court trials for what they did with money that was voted for the power sector. At least, I mean, it's a known issue for allegation of corruption of what they spent money for. Apart from that, the issue of policy inconsistency has been a major bane of this sector. Not just that alone, we don't have respect for contractual agreements. Apart from that, you find situations where there is so much indebtedness, government delinquency. I mean, I don't know whether we recall what happened in Lagos recently, where Ikeja Electric was attacked by service people. As much as we frown at that conduct of going to attack people who were doing their legitimate business, the fact remains that government was delinquent in not paying, because one of the reasons that gave rise to that attack was the fact that that government agency was owing up to about 3 billion. I hope I have that fact very clear. And they were paying about 60 million monthly. So if you are owing 3 billion, 4 billion, and you are paying 60 million monthly, when are you going to finish paying? How many 60 million do you have in 1 billion? So, but these people are providing a service for the nation. They are not a revenue generating agency. They are a cost center. It is government's responsibility to make sure that they pay their debt, because the energy has been consumed. So there is a responsibility on the part of government that owns them and for whom they provide a certain critical service to make sure that the items for which they reacted to provide protection is not exposed. I mean, the public is not exposed to the danger of such a thing. I mean, look at what happened. I can't remember the year now when there was this explosion at the Keja cantonment. Somebody was telling me that as far as Satellite Town, look at the distance between the Keja and Satellite Town in Lagos. The sound that was produced was like the bomb was exploding behind their houses.
Same thing on the island as well.
So if they have a responsibility to make sure that those explosives are kept at certain temperature and pressure, and then the disco has a responsibility to recover its money, are you going to blame the disco for withdrawing service? So we have seen policy inconsistency, we have seen political interest, we have seen selfish interest. Lack of national interest is one of the issues that is driving the power sector in the wrong direction. It's driving the power sector southwards. And as a result of that, unless we have a change of attitude, okay, take for instance, the Honorable Minister of Power launched 2 documents about a week or 2 weeks ago. Those documents, I mean, the review of those documents, they have taken 24 years, because the first one was done in 2001. And it's only after 24 years. For a sector like the power sector, you cannot be insensitive to exponential developments. It is within this same period that we have had explosion in the production of handsets. It is within this same period that we have had sporadic or exponential growth in population. And electricity is equal to life. I don't know how many of us, I know so many of us can relate. As you are going home and you get to your environment, most of us have what we used to monitor, whether there is light at home now. So when you get to the monitor point that you see supply, and maybe you are sad before you got there, you feel a sense of relief. But the moment you get to that monitoring point and there is no, so, oh my God, that despondency is there. So that tells you how critical electricity is to us. So we have the issue of lack of proper planning. Take SCADA, for instance. SCADA, that is supposed to be a critical equipment in transmission, has been in production line for over 40 years. So if you are going to take 20 years to prepare for madness, how long are you going to get mad? I'm sorry for the use of that word on air. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's taking too long for us to get out of this mess that we have found ourselves in this country. Policy inconsistency. Government has to be ready to take up that responsibility to say, we want to do this. Look at the Electricity Act 2023 that was signed by President Bola Tinubu. This is something that the likes of our forefathers, Awolowo, had advocated in the 50s, that regions should be allowed to generate their own electricity. We are just realizing the importance of such policy direction. At this time of our growth as a nation, with all of the resources that we have had, look at what happened to the 19 northern states. Was it at the beginning of the year or was it last year, when the whole of that economy was cut off from the national grid for 2 weeks? Look at the damage to socioeconomic activities. Look at all the things that would have happened. Look at the criminal activities that would have taken place. Why is it that it is on? I mean, of all the lines, most of them became redundant, and it was only one that was functional. And it was when that one was put under pressure that we now started running around, and we spent only God knows how many billions we spent to recover that line.
I know Mr. Fadikwe is actually very passionate about this issue. But let's just bring in our second guest at the Kaduna studio, Idris Mohammed, Managing Partner, Fumrak Energy Consultant. Idris, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Yeah.
For having me here.
Okay, all right. Maybe Claire, you have a question for?
No, let's allow Mr. Idris to settle down. We'll come back to you in a moment. But let's get to United Kingdom via Zoom and bring in Engineer Mustafa Yunus Samiaja, who, of course, is an expert in power system planning and development. Again, Fadikwe and Malam Mohammed have talked about the issue of planning. Indeed, Mr. Fadikwe, went on to talk about policy inconsistency, government inability to stick to the contractual agreement and all that. And in 2013, that was when, of course, the power sector was unbundled, and we had more than 11 discos and about 6 gencos. But since then, we really have not had improved power supply, despite that unbundling. But the gencos have consistently talked about, one, the regime, tariff regime, which it's not, allowing them the flexibility, to recoup and all that. They've also talked about the quality of the infrastructure for distribution and all that. I don't think if these are very fundamental issues that are affecting, the stability of our power supply. Engineer Meyaja.
Thank you for having me once again. Yes, I will start with the last statement. The issue of what the GEMCOs are raising are not really fundamental. The problem of power sector in Nigeria, I must confess to you, is a complex one. Let's look at it from a historical perspective. One, I was born in Unguru town, Yobe State, then Borno, then Northeast. April 1963, I started to understand my environment 5 years or 4 years later. Believe me, up to 1980-81, I have never witnessed a single time when light goes off. Not a second. So that is to tell you that time things were doing well. Subsequently, in the 80s, we started to have problems in the power sectors, and up to today, all efforts by government, so-called effort by government to get things turned around, could not. I could recall 1999 to 2000, when the Obasanjo's regime came in, they gave themselves 6 months. They said December 1999, they should have stable electricity. They couldn't. Not after 2003, up to 2007, up to today, no stability is not. There is no power stability in the country. So basically, like I said, it's a complex one. The issue of no planning is not the issue. I could recall 1975, there was a very big consultancy work engaged, that federal government engaged Motor Columbus, who is a Swiss company that produced Nigerian Electricity Master Plan, a very, very good document for planning. I was privileged to have one, about 6 or 7 volumes of about 55 centimeter, a volume each. It was a very complex look on corners of Nigeria, how it should be supplied, how the generation could be, how the transmission could be. Everything was spelled out, but it didn't work. Thereafter, through the political regimes, policies upon policies, programs upon programs, it never works. The unbundling issue, it never works. So the problems can be summarized to both political, economic, social, and technical problems. Political problems, as my friend, colleague has said, unprecedented change of government affects it. For example, we are privileged to be one of the contractors with a company I was chairman in one of the CBN-funded projects. Immediately there was change in government from, last year, there was change in CBN governor, then the project was almost got stalled. It has to be reviewed because of the dollar issue from 2.5 billion to about 4.5 billion, so at the end, even as that, the dollar issue still prevails, the project almost gets stalled. This is what I mean by change in government. It happens more during military regime where 6 months or thereabout, government will be toppled, the policies will be disregarded, so that comes around policy inconsistency, policy strangulation of the system where the laws are enacted, laws are promulgated that make the system more complex. Like there was a law, such electricity law that has just been passed and it's come into force recently, creating so many companies, so making it more complicated to manage. The human resources was not planned for that. Not enough. There are a lot of engineers, but they are not properly trained. They don't know what to do. You put them there. When there is trip in 330 kV, there will be people will be running hectare and sector to get it because they are not properly informed, or those that were informed when the new companies were created, like the Discos, the Gencos, they sack all the experienced staffs, so it makes the whole thing so complex, so difficult to manage. So that is the issue of the aspect of political problems. The other is the economic problem. There is huge requirement of funds to revitalize the power sector, and the funds are not there. The issue of the new policy on this, the dollar exchange issue makes everything very expensive. For example, substation 330/132 kV substation, 80 to 85% of the content is offshore. It's either in dollar or euro or anything. But so, and the income in the government post is not there. It's very little, so much such that it cannot fund the project. Nigeria, to get credit is another problem. When you get problem, it confounds the issue. That is the issue of forex is a very big problem. Transmission line, for example, 70 to 75% of it are offshore. So where do you get the dollar to buy these things and construct the lines, the requirement you need? Presently, we are talking of 4,000 megawatt, where our requirement, I can assure you, is not less than 20,000 megawatts, and we're still around 4. Where do you get the remaining balance? Where do you have the money? You see, you don't have the money. So now comes the issue of social problems. You cannot separate social and political problems. When a member of National Assembly wants power supply to be taken, he need only 33 kV line. He will go because he's the chairman of maybe TCN or power sector or somewhere. he now wants 132 kV into his domain, in his village, and then before you know, what you call a misplacement of priority. The EU, as government workers or the professionals, where you are not allowed to take decisions, political interest comes in. I mean, you can see the problems are so complex. Coming to technical, I told you that when the new companies, the Discos and Gencos were created, they sacked most of the techs. They said they are corrupt, they are this, and the people there today, I can assure you, they are more even corrupt than those ones that were sacked, because every one of you here knows that if you have issue in your house, to get somebody, I mean, AEDC or a kind of distribution or whatever to come and get it done, is quite a hell of a problem. For you to get them, I don't know, it's not easy. You can stay there for 24 hours, nobody comes. But they said when we privatize it, people will be more forthcoming, but where is it? It's not forthcoming. So social problems that I've mentioned comes into play because Nigerians are not really committed to doing these things, are not really committed to do the business. They are more committed to do business as usual. To corruption is key to the problem of power, not only power. If you all across the social life of Nigerians, corruption has really got it devastated to the extent that, okay, now take the case of Abuja. You are talking about power. So do you have water? We don't have even water. Do you have electricity? You don't have electricity. Health sector. So what is really the problem? The main problem, believe me, you and every Nigerian knows, is we are not sincere to ourselves. We are corrupt. We just want to make money anyhow, running, looking for money, hectare looking for money, going up and down no matter what. That, in fact, all this security issue of money. Everybody is just mad about money, not thinking about his social responsibility to do what he's supposed to do to his community, to do what's supposed to do to the people. People are self-centered. These are the problems of power sector. This is a problem of health sector. This is a problem of water supply. This is a problem of educational sector. So why are we beating about the bush? Let's call a spade a spade. Nigerians should look up to themselves. People should try to be good, at least within your own immediate environment. If you are a public servant or you are in a business, do the right thing, handle this professionally, get people trained, get people knowledgeable. If you do anything from an informed position, you do it better. These are some of the problems I quickly try to highlight. I am really part of the system. I know what we go through to get things done. It's unfortunate, honestly, the power sector to be stable. Once we don't change this aspect of doing business, we just forget it. I really sympathize.
All right. Thank you very much, Engineer Mehaja, for your opening shots there. You have actually traced the genesis of the problem that we have in the power sector, going down to starting from 1980, the issue of political, social, and economic problem, and most importantly, the issue of sincerity, that is lack of sincerity on the part of the people in charge of it. Well, let's go to our other guest at the Kaduna studio, Idris Mohammed. Both of them are Idris Mohammed, Claire. So, but let's now go to Managing Partner, Fumrak Energy Consultant now. I believe you are settled now and you have been listening to the conversation so far. We're trying to trace the problem, the challenges in the power sector, and a lot of issues have been highlighted. I don't know if you still have more, but I want you to talk more on the issue of investment, which they have all also mentioned, that a lack of adequate investment, that is needed to upgrade the system and expand the Nigeria power infrastructure. So what is your view in this regard?
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here and meeting my boss, my mentor, and my namesake. When we were working, people often find it difficult to differentiate which of the Idrises you want to refer to. Thank you. Yes, coming to your question, actually without disapproving what my colleagues have earlier said on this issue, I will not want to dwell into history much. Rather, I will not ask questions, rather I will go searching for answers. As it is today, I think the problem of the power sector in Nigeria can be categorized into 4 broad categories. We have, of course, the technical aspect, we have the commercial aspect, we have the managerial aspect, and of course, the attitudinal aspect as enumerated by my colleagues. So, coming to the issue of investment, actually, if you look at it as it is today, we as Nigerians, honestly, we should be ashamed of ourselves that today we are talking of 4,000 megawatts being generated into the grid. It is, to say the least, pathetic, honestly speaking. And that, the reason is not far from your questions. That is lack of adequate investment in infrastructure at all levels of the value chain, starting from generation to transmission and the distribution layer. The level of investment is far inadequate. And the reason is simple, because even the little 4,000 megawatt we are generating at the moment, the industry cannot even sustain the little 4,000 megawatt, because if you break the megawatt into the retail level, the unit, when you talk of 4,000 megawatt, you are talking of
Oh dear. We do apologize. We hope that the connection will come back, and then we'll return to you to complete your thought. But let's come back to the studio now. Mr. Fadikpe, he started talking about the issues within all the value chain, both from generation, transmission, distribution. But Mr. Idris talked about corruption, and I think we should put the issue of corruption in the power sector within context. Because what Nigerians want to see is that they have constant supply of light. And I tell you that the average Nigerian is ready to pay for what he consumes, as long as he gets it. I mean, all my colleagues here, are willing to pay as long as they have constant supply of electricity. But in the case where, yes, but in the case where, sorry?
As long as it's not outrageous.
No, I'm coming. In the case where you are given, you don't have prepaid meter, and you rely on, estimated billing. And then at the end of the month, you get maybe about 6 hours or less of power, and at the end of the month, you get the same estimated bill or even higher. That's corruption in itself. And the Gencos are telling you, the discos are saying that the tariff regime is not cost reflective. So we cannot recoup the cost of what we put in to be able to meet the needs of this category of people. So why are we still implementing this non-transparent tariff regime?
Okay, you've put a lot of things together. Let's see how we can unpack estimated billing, corruption, inadequacy of the tariff,
prepaid meters,
and then prepaid meter. Yes. 4 critical issues that have plagued the power sector for a long time. When I mentioned the issue of policy inconsistency, one of the things I had in mind was this issue of metering. And those who follow the power sector will tell you that by 2013, when the privatization took off, we had this metering policy called CAPME, Credit Advance Payment Metering Implementation. Exactly. Now, that policy was a beautiful policy because it allowed customers to make an advance payment, and the system or the sector saw it as a loan for which the customer got some bit of interest. I think about 12% interest at that time, as at 2013, 2014. And so the customer gave the loan, and then the customer got repaid by way of credit over a period of time. Then that policy was phased out, I think, during the Fashola period, and then we came up with, what's the other one now? MAP, yes. MAP, for me, based on my own experience in the power sector, was one of the most beautiful policy instruments for metering of customers. I can't understand why that policy had to be shut down, reviewed, and then brought back again. I can't understand. So metering is a fundamental issue. It creates transparency. You are able to know what you are paying for and things like that. But you see, the issue of estimated billing is also a fundamental issue. Why is it fundamental? Once electricity is consumed, somebody has to pay for it. But where customers, and I join them in making that advocacy, where the problem is that, look, for God's sake,
I'm not getting the services.
That's one. And two, let it even be commensurate. And that was why NEC came up with the policy of capping of the estimated billing. That, okay, if you live in Papi, for instance, or you live in Yanya, or you live in Asokoro, or you live in Maitama, I mean, you are using Abuja geography. So let's say outside Abuja, you are living in the GRA or some high, exactly. There is a minimum threshold of consumption that can be used to aggregate the calculation for those for those within that network. But that is not to say that estimated billing is the proper thing. It's not an exact science. It is still some kind of, I think this is what XYZ will consume in this locality. Because, for instance, somebody in Papi may be living in a duplex, having about all the rooms, maybe 5-bedroom duplex, everywhere air conditioned and things like that. Meanwhile, somebody in Maitama BQ is not even having an air conditioner, but his own estimated billing is not the same as the person in in a Papi, for instance. So that makes it a little bit difficult, and it's not an exact science.
You can work with it.
Well,
depending when the prepaid meters are available.
See, the truth of the matter is that every customer is entitled, at the risk of calling it a fundamental right, every customer is entitled to a meter.
Yes, it is.
Every customer, because it is not only for the purpose of energy accountability. There's also transparency, and I need to be able to budget for my consumption monthly. Yeah. And then the issue of trust, for God's sake. So it creates it's still a mystery that, in spite of all the policy instruments that have been developed to bring about the solving of the metering problem, we are still where we are today. I think the NEC figure is that about 45% of customer population are unmetered. 45%. That's scandalous. We're not saying 5%, we're not saying 10%, we're saying 45%. I hope my figure is right. That's huge.
What could be the challenge? Why is that so?
Part of the challenge,
not available?
The gentleman in Kaduna, the meters are not available. Most of the things we use in the power sector are sourced offshore. When Miaja was speaking, dollar component drives a substantial part of the power sector. Even the acquisition loan for the sector was dollar denominated, and that in itself is a major issue till today. Since 2013, the dollar, the acquisition fund for the assets is a major issue because it was denominated in dollar, and dollar has continued to be on the escape route. As you pursue it, is running away. So is
it stabilized now?
Well, I hope so. The amount, they got the asset at less than $300 to less than 300 naira to $1. See where it is today, and some of these loans are still outstanding. Where are they going to get the money to?
But isn't government subsidizing part of what the consumers?
Government says I can no longer subsidize.
Okay, all right, thank you.
There are so many issues that are
too many issues, Mr. Fadigbe. All right, thank you. Let's go back to our Kaduna studio where we had Idris Mohammed, who was cut off as a result of power supply that we were talking about. He was cut off as a result of power supply. Now that the power has been restored, let's get the remaining of your thoughts there before we...
They're lucky that the power came back.
Maybe it's Jen. Maybe it's Jen.
Okay.
Yes, they had to turn on the Jen.
Or solar.
So let's get your feedback. Just complete your thought before we go to your namesake there, because I have a question for him as well.
As I was saying, honestly speaking, it's very sad to admit, as a nation of over 200 million population, we are talking of 4,000 or a little above or little below 4,000 for quite a number of years now. And the reason is simple. Actually, the capacity as it is today, the generation capacity as it is today, can give us close to 8 to 10,000 megawatt. But unfortunately, most of these generation companies are operating below installed capacity. Why? Because even the little that is being generated, the market cannot foot the bill. In other words, if 4,000 megawatt is being wheeled into the grid, and the Naira equivalent of that 4,000 megawatt is probably 300 million Naira per hour, and at the end of the day you are having something far below that, where is the incentive for these existing generation companies to expand their capacity or even attract new investors? I must say, with due respect, we can see that even our super rich in this country are running away from the power sector. And the question is simple, because they prefer to go to oil and gas, banking industry, telecommunication, because there is return on investment in that aspect. So we need to, as a country, first admit and agree that, look, we want to improve this situation from where it is today. And the only way we will do that is to ensure that at least the little we are getting, everybody pays for the little that he is getting. If, for example, 4,000 megawatt is being generated, and we are able to foot pay the market value of that 4,000 megawatt, that will serve as an incentive for others to say, okay, look, I can invest in this sector, and I hope I will recover my investment, and of course maybe get something on it as a return on investment. Then if you look at the transmission level as well, today, even if you can generate 10,000 megawatt, I don't think the TCN have the capacity to wheel that 10,000 megawatt to the various load centers. So that equally calls for more investment in the transmission infrastructure to be able to, because it doesn't make any sense if generation companies today will generate, let's say, will operate at full capacity, but the energy generated cannot be transmitted to the various load centers. It becomes a waste to them. So likewise, if you go to the distribution level as well, you discover that even the little 4,000 megawatt that is being generated, we will hear every now and then that some distribution companies are suppressing load, they are not picking their maximum allocation. So all these are the factors. So what is the solution? to this. The solution actually, let's start from the distribution layer. Honestly speaking, my candid opinion is that some of these distribution companies honestly have no capacity to manage their franchise. You have a distribution company that is controlling 4 states, some 3 states, but in reality, they can probably be able to manage only 1 state. So it's high time we look at this, and if need be, we further decentralize the whole situation. I for one, honestly speaking, I don't see any wisdom in the 40% stake in the distribution companies that the government is still holding. Because you are holding 40%, you said on behalf of Nigerians, you are not putting eyes to ensure that your 40% interest in these companies are effectively protected. So why holding on to it? So it's better you either the existing core investors, if they have the fund, let them acquire the remaining 40%, or call for other investors to come and invest and take over the 40%. So that, for example, if you have a distribution company that is currently managing, let's say 4 states, why not, take 2 states and get another new investor, give it to him, let them manage, and the existing investor, let him or her manage the other 2 states or 1 state where necessary. You can see even in the performance of the distribution companies as it is today, you will discover that companies that have less a more manageable geographical location are even doing much better than those with a very wide geographical franchise. If you take Ikeja, you take Eko, for example, look at the indices, you discover that the performance of these companies are far better than some of the companies that are having 4 or 5 states as their franchise. So we need to look at this aspect. And when it comes to the transmission company, honestly speaking, I see no reason why, but for, of course, what Engineer Mehaja and Bode and my elder brother here said about undue interferences and inconsistency in policy implementation and formulation. There is absolutely no reason why we should be having the challenges we are having in the transmission level of the value chain, because the transmission company, as we know it up to this moment, is still owned by the government, is still managed by the government, is still one entity. So why should you have difficulty managing such an institution, if not for, of course, the unnecessary interferences from the so-called power that be? So honestly speaking, I think we need to work as a country to let the politicians do their politics. Let them be the politicians that they are. But when it comes to technical issues, please let them allow the professionals exercise their discretion. Let them allow the professionals take decisions. Let them allow I remember very well when I was in the power sector, we had this interface meeting with our counterpart from Niger Republic, Nijalek. During the course of our conversation, they said even the president of Niger, if he wants supply to be extended from one point to another, all he will do is he will write a memo to Nijalek that we want power supply to be extended from point A to point B. It is now left for Nijalek to go and carry out survey and other technical study to ensure, one, is that project practically possible at that material time? Has the company the necessary infrastructure to extend power supply from point A to point B? If they can't, they will just tell him, you have to wait till so period, and that's the end. And whatever it will take to take supply from that point A to point B will be left to the professionals. They will do the study, they will come up with the material requirement and the cost, and they will be given the fund, and they will buy the material, execute the project, and of course, let them come tomorrow and say the contractor supplies substandard materials and let's see. They can't, because they will still manage.
All right, Mala Mohammed, I'm sorry to interject here. We will just take a short break, and when we return, of course, we'll continue our conversation, but we will be bringing in Engineer Mihaja to look at some of the solutions as we begin to wind down this conversation. Please, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Don't go away. Let's take a short break.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
The business environment, to be honest with you, has been extremely hard on most Nigerian women's businesses. And of course, harsh for a number of reasons. There is no way you would increase or move subsidy and increase the price of fuel that it doesn't have the counter effect. It has been very challenging for so many women. I know that a lot of them have cried in one way or the other to us to find ways of intervening. But that is not to say that it is all doom and gloom. We will still have a few percentage of women that are thriving in this economy, but we hope that we'll be able to get a larger percentage. One of the things I've seen with even our local purchases now is that people are buying more made in Nigerian options of food, of clothing, and so on and so forth than the imported. So that again is helping some of our industries thrive. Surprisingly, the telecommunications is still doing well, and the reason is very simple. A lot of people are going for online options of skills in terms of training, communications, even remote working. And so you will see that people that provide services around those areas also thrive. But I think at the end of the day, it's about partnerships, collaboration, and influencing power from especially the private sector and even the public sector. But we really need the public sector to drive a number of things, especially policies, because the public sector has the national spread above even whatever we can do in our own small way. What has happened over the years is that even the government, for example, is being pulled from different angles by all these stakeholders. We need to harness ourselves to have strategic focus areas, and we should all be moving in the same direction, not using a competitive approach, but a collaborative approach. Secondly, in collaboration, we need to move with large clusters of decision makers. Instead of, the process of reaching out to individuals is painstakingly long and it takes time. And so we need to engage these stakeholders on a larger platform. I think it's very important to identify where you can get help in your own little way. And one of the things I've realized is that when you operate in silo, it is difficult for you to lift yourself out of the situation. Identify ways you can do what you are doing in a simpler way. And if what you are doing is no more profitable, why not find out what can you do in the meantime that will help you? You need to think outside the box and then connect. What you can do is also identify people and become a cluster to provide a service that ordinarily you cannot do alone.
Welcome to Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis, a TV series dedicated to aging and older persons in Nigeria. Be part of this series and discover the transformative programs crafted to give a new lease of life to our senior citizens, courtesy of the National Senior Citizen Center.
The National Senior Citizen Center is the oasis for the senior citizens.
For thought-provoking discussions on aging, geriatric social care, and issues that matter most to our senior citizens.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Silver Oasis.
Tune in to Silver Oasis on the network service of the NTA every Saturday at 10:05 p.m. Silver Oasis, improving the quality of lives of senior citizens.
It's obvious that the discourse have very fundamental challenges or issues because sometimes when you have a fault and you call out to them, especially here in Abuja, you know, it's either you provide for logistics to come or you even buy, most times you have to buy the materials you need, you know, to fix the problem. But NBET, it's supposed to be a buffer or a middle person, you know, between government and this discourse. Do you think that NBET should continue to play this role? Or do you think that we should now begin to look at, you know, the contract and do a kind of review so that those discos that are not, do not have the capacity, you know, we'll find a way and then we'll do with those that can do the job for us?
Hello. Thank you so much. I need to first highlight quickly one of the major technical issue. The major technical issue in the system now, like one of the speakers said, is the networks are seriously constrained by losses. Losses in other major countries like China is around 3% on the lines and all through the system, maximum 3%. The losses today in Nigeria, you are talking of 30 to 40%. What it means is if you inject 1,000 megawatt, you end up losing about 30 to 40% of it on the way before it gets there. That is where the discourse refused to understand the transmission. TCN knows this problem, but there's nothing they can do. If you are losing 30% of what you have sent to a particular location, that's a huge amount of money, and they always want to recover it from the customers. That is part of the unfair operational issues that Nigerians are really facing. The second major issue is the technical staff training. I must everyone knows truly that people don't give training importance. If, for example, in the ministry or any government or any institution, somebody is posted to training, it's like they are posting him to where he has no job or things like that. Or if we organize training, people decide to stay back and collect the benefit without really going for the training. So when you don't know what to do on a complex system like transmission or distribution networks, obviously there could be problem. All this system collapse, there is infrastructure deficit as well as the training lack of capacity in the part of the staffs. Someone also spoke about investment. You see, when you talk of investment, I could recall during the unbundling exercise, it was an international tender. Only 11 or 12 companies really show interest, and 11 of them got each from it. No any international tenderer that participated, to the best of my knowledge, because they see the environment as hostile, economically not viable, excuse me, because of this issue of corruption. You see, we don't have the resources as much internally. We need external investment that what the president always goes out to seek for investors to come. But the investors, remember, all the foreign companies that have been in Nigeria, they all left. What? Why? Because this issue that we always don't don't look at it as important or don't give it the required attention. Corruption drive them away. Where is John Holt? Where is all this UAC, Levantes in the commercial sector? They are all gone. I like that one of them is planning to go. So those that knows the environment are living. What do you think the new ones are? How do you think the new ones will come? Of course, they will not come. Please, the major issue is the president must intervene. He must take this seriously to address this issue of lack of political will. He must intervene with all seriousness to address the issue of corruption. He must intervene to ensure that we have a stable structure, a working structure, committed Nigerians to do this job with all seriousness and purposes, with all good intention to make sure that this system works. Otherwise, we will remain blowing grammars every day, discussing about the power sector, when the main issue is known to everyone, but nobody wants to really address the problem securely as it is supposed to be. So the president also need to come in on this issue of policy inconsistencies that we have been talking about. Like now, the new electricity law is in place. They try to sort of unbundle the National Electricity Regulatory Commission, whereby you have national, you have regional. The states should also produce power for themselves. Like I said earlier on in one of our conversation, if you take the case of my state, who will invest in power? Who will construct power plants in your state? I mean, why do you always bring in policies that are just can be read on paper, but you cannot practicalize it? You know, so the issue of policy is a major one that the government need to be more sincere about it. Not sincere in the real sense of it. What I mean, to look at it with the view of getting the power sector revitalized, like we always say. Again, on the issue of policy, for example, now I went to a factory in Muscat, Oman. Then one of the things that attracted my attention was when the presenter was talking, he showed me the installation paper of the power transformers they use. They said they have to resort to buying that one from Sweden, because that is you can trust that one. Not every installation paper that they want to use. So in Nigerian system, you cannot do that because you are constrained by the law. VPP law disallow you to do that. We know everyone 300 kV circuit breaker. The Siemens are there. The Southwest breakers are there. But we go in and buying other breakers that we know they within a year they will pack off. For example, Katampe transmission, the substation, after completion, the disconnector switches were all bought from China. 1 year plus, 60% of them got problems. So the policy said you just have to buy from the lowest bidder. And then we know what cheap things have expensive habit. So when you bring in something very cheap, you know what you are paying. I'm not saying you should.
Thank you very much. Engineer Mihaja, sorry, we just need to cut you short here because of our time, and thanks for the solution that you are preferring there. Let's quickly go to our Kaduna studio, where we still have the MD, the former MD there, that is Idris Mohammed. I just want you to speak to the Electricity Act of 2023, which aims to promote state-led growth in the electricity sector, allowing state to create independent electricity market, licensed power generation, transmission, distribution within their borders, which many in the sector have described as, a landmark, development. But it seems that most of the states are still not keen into this. What exactly is the issue here? And my question will be, what role can decentralization, decentralized power distribution, actually, such as power distribution, having mini grids, play in improving access to electricity in the country?
Thank you once again for having me. My opinion on the devolution of electric power functions of NEC is some adding to the confusion that we already have. We had a session with Bode Tuesday live last week, and we discussed extensively on the issue of this devolution of NAC functions to states. If at the moment what we have in the electricity sector in Nigeria is confusion, and then you are now saying that the same confusion should be extended to the states. So what are you in effect saying? I think what we ought to do is to ensure that at the center, at the federal level, that the inefficiencies have been corrected. And once those inefficiencies have been corrected, we'll now have an efficient electricity market, electricity operations activity, and then the revenue as a result of improved efficiency will translate into huge investment for the sector that the government does not have the capacity to shoulder. Now, talking about funding of the sector, how will you fund the sector in a situation where at the moment we are in areas of up to 3 trillion naira in outstanding liabilities? Where will that come from? Like we have discussed this morning, the issue of what is in the system, everybody knows. And unless that is addressed, a former president was quoted as saying that an X amount of funds were appropriated to improve power supply. But where is the power? I'm still asking that question. Where is the power? Surprisingly, interestingly, I will want to raise this issue now. Major part of the funds that were provided to improve power supply went for importation of distribution, transmission, generation equipment. Those equipments are still lying down in the ports. Those equipments meant for the sector are still lying down in Nigerian Port Authority. So unless President Bola Ahmed Tinubu sets up a committee to really bring out those huge investments that are lying down in the wharf or in the Ports Authority, he will not be helping Nigeria. I know he has the capacity to help Nigeria to get out of the woods. If he can take a decision, it doesn't have to deteriorate before he can take a decision, like the issue of the transmission system collapse that saw northern Nigeria, 17 or 19 states, without power for 2 weeks. And then he said, enough is enough. And then when he intervened, of course, power was restored within 2 days. Within 2 days, power was restored to Nigeria. So please, Mr. President, the equipment that are lying down in Nigerian Ports Authority, please recover those equipment and inject them into the system. Part of the major challenges that we are having is as a result of non-availability of those parts, which is lying down fallow in the Ports Authority, in the wharves. I think when that is done, you will begin to see a gradual, improvement in steady power supply. You have equipment for transmission, you have equipment for generation, you have equipment for distribution, and it is there. It is lying down. Nobody is talking about it. How can you have power supply when you have invested an X amount of money to the region of $16 billion, and probably half of that amount of money, you use them to import electricity equipment, and then it is lying down low. For what? I think it is time for action. President Bola Tinubu is an action man. He should take action and bring sanity to Nigeria's power sector. And the evolution of powers, as far as I know, I think is adding a confusion. Right now, we are discussing that there is no capacity, all right, to be a problem solver. Look at what is happening in Enugu, in Aba. Have that issue of geometric power, has that issue been resolved? If that issue has not been resolved, it's a major issue that will jettison and question why the devolution of powers should be reviewed. I think it's adding to the confusion.
Thank you, Malam Idris. Let me quickly speak to your brother Malam there, who is also there beside you. Let me just recap, issues and solutions. We've talked about the need for planning, the need for compliance with the contractual agreements, policy consistency, the need to deal with corruption, and of course, correct operational inefficiencies. But let's also quickly talk about the alternatives, that investors like Sage Consultancy firm are also advocating. Solar, the use of solar, wind, gas. I mean, is it as easy as they are bantering, as an alternative for Nigerians? Okay, sorry. Then I'll bring the question to you. Yes.
Well, they are beautiful proposals, and I think they are coming rather too late in the day for us in this country. I mean, it's not today that we know that we have a lot of solar potential in the north. It's not today. Rather than run a long line of, a long transmission line crisscrossing the country, I have no issue with that. But at least you can also localize so that period of 2 weeks that we didn't have supply in the north, if we had developed our solar potentials over the years, they will just, we will just walk into them and use them almost effortlessly. So for me, it's a fantastic thing. But is it as cheap?
That's what I said. Is it more money?
It's not more as as we use it on the streets. It's not more. It's not so cheap. How many houses can afford to have solar facilities in their homes? The cost of the batteries, the panels, even the operations. Some communities, they have installed it in their locations, but the operation is a different ball game entirely. But that is not to say we should not pursue it. It's still okay for us to pursue it, but it's coming at a time when the economy has been seriously challenged. Imagine that, we had pursued it when our economy was very robust. We would have gone past all of this stage. That's one. Number two.
Sorry, the impression is that we have 5.5 kilowatt hours of solar. Makes it easy and probably come cheaper for us.
No, it's not. It's not as cheap. Unfortunately, we are not a manufacturing, we are not a country that manufactures all these components. So it's still dollar denominated. Now, even the one that we have, coal, we are running after climate, climate issue and things like that. Whereas the Western world that is saying that don't use coal again, they are still using coal, for God's sake. We have not, look, let us even first of all use the things we have locally here. Enugu used to be the headquarters of coal in this country. I don't know what has happened to all of those natural resources. Let us use them and solve our problem. After we have solved the problem, we can then be dealing with the issue of the climate, as far as I'm concerned.
Beautiful.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Fadikwe. I don't know whether we are back to our Kaduna studio because of our time. I just quickly get the key recommendations from Idris Mohammed now. What are the key recommendations from this conversation that you would, recommend to policymakers in just less than 1 minute?
First and foremost is that the power sector is a professional sector. Just like the health sector, where you can see that from the minister, most often you discover that they are health professionals. So it is high time, honestly speaking, we allow professionals to head the power sector, because this will allow them to know the difference between a policy that is practicable and the policy that can only work on papers. That is first. We must stop this undue and unnecessary interference in issues of policy formulation, policy implementation in the power sector. Then secondly, I want, honestly speaking, to see how we can decentralize some of these operations. I remember very well, as far back as the 80s, we have a supplementary national control center in Shiruru here. The idea is that we...
Well, Idris Mohammed, managing partner, FOMRAC Energy Consultant. We like to apologize. We need to just cut you off right now because of our time. Thank you so much for your recommendations. Also, we want to thank the same studio in Kaduna, Idris Mohammed, who is the former managing director, CEO, Kaduna Electric and Power Infrastructure. Thank you also for your perspective this morning. We also want to thank via Zoom Engineer Mustafa Yunusa Mehaja, former DG National Emergency Management Agency NEMA and expert in power system planning and development. Thank you for your contributions. And in the studio, our guest, Bode Fadikbe, CEO, Sage Consultant and Communication. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, that's how far we can go this morning on this edition on Good Morning Nigeria. I am Ademola Adeoye.
No, not how far. We have come to the end of the program. I'm Claire Adela Babla Zagwapa.